Toto Wolff's strong response to Kimi's crash explained, James Vowles drops a bomb on Mick Schumacher's future, and Lando Norris reveals issues he could have this weekend. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get straight into the latest F1 news. Despite Red Bull finishing down the order in Friday practice at Monza, Helmut Marko believes the team is in a much better place than the Dutch GP. The two Red Bull drivers finished down in 14th and 15th place in second practice at the Italian Grand Prix, almost a second off the pace set by Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes, but Helmut Marko was nevertheless smiling after the checkered flag. Speaking following the session, Marko revealed that the competitiveness of the RB20 appears to be much greater than the lap times might suggest. No, but we are better than it looks, Marko smiled when asked about the lack of representative time from Max Verstappen, who used the medium tires for his fastest lap. On the qualifying simulation, Max had a wobble at Parabolica. There he was 2/10 behind, I guess, Lando Norris, but without normal engine power like the others had. In the long run, until graining started, we were very competitive, but then the drop-off was a little bit radical. It came when he had to slow down, I think, for a car in front of him, so we have to sort that. Having had a tough weekend last time out at the Dutch Grand Prix, Marko confirmed the car is in a much stronger place than it had been at the same point of the weekend at Zandvoort, lower power engine modes and tire decisions having played a part in the low-key showing. Basically, we are much better than in Zandvoort. Yes, much better, yeah, he said. The concern Marko does have is regarding the graining, which he believes is a condition exacerbated by the newly resurfaced top layer of tarmac of the Monza racetrack. The graining being something that is currently a bigger issue than the balance which Verstappen has been critical of in recent weeks, and which Marko said has definitely improved. From FP1 onwards, but when the graining starts, it's radical and the car falls back, he said. The graining starts after 5 to 7 laps, but it came together with when he slowed down, so he has to go flat out all the time to solve it. We will have to sort out if it's a 1 or 2 stop, but the tarmac is getting better and better with every lap. So let's see what happens. No rain is around. We have 2 F3 and F2 races, so I think it should improve, and the more it improves, the less the chances for graining should be. While things are better for Red Bull, Marko doubts the team is a step ahead of the rest and that the battle will extend to include Ferrari and Mercedes alongside the McLarens. I think it's 4 cars in the mix, he said, before laughing when asked if it's a benefit to Red Bull that there are other cars potentially able to take points away from the competitive McLarens, as long as we are ahead, yes. Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff says Andrea Kimi Antonelli needs to cope with the pressure after the teenage sensation's F1 race weekend debut went wrong in FP1 at the Italian Grand Prix. Antonelli, who is set to be confirmed as 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton's replacement at Mercedes for F1 2025, participated in opening practice at Monza. Yet despite topping the times early in the session, the 18-year-old found himself in the barriers after losing control of his W15 car at the high-speed Parabolica corner. Antonelli, who has been described as the most exciting talent to arrive in F1 since reigning 3-time world champion Max Verstappen, commenced an extensive F1 testing program with Mercedes earlier this year in preparation for a likely F1 2025 promotion alongside his racing program in F2. The Bologna-born driver's crash has reignited concerns in some quarters that Antonelli may not be ready to make his F1 debut in 2025, with the 18-year-old airing reservations of his own last month. Speaking to media, including PlanetF1.com, following FP1 at Monza, Wolff, who has revealed that Antonelli's next practice appearance is likely to be in Mexico in late October, believes Antonelli must deal with the heavy burden on his shoulders. He said, I think a strong driver needs to recover from these things and cope with the pressure. Obviously, this weekend wasn't easy for him because he still needs to compete in F2. You have all these shenanigans around you in Monza, Italian kid that's being hyped for the first time in a Mercedes. That must be a heavy burden, but if he wants to be a champion one day, he needs to cope with it. I have no doubt that he can and he will. Asked if Antonelli's shaky start will influence Mercedes' final direction on their F1 2025 driver lineup, he added, no, zero effect. I think most important is to hire based on ability, and an FP1 that's gone wrong is not the reason why you decide for or against the driver. Wolff went on to reveal that Antonelli registered an impact of 45G in his crash at Parabolica, with the team facing a race against time to repair the car for George Russell to make it out on time for the start of FP2. The Mercedes boss is braced for more incidents of a similar nature in F1 2025 as Antonelli adjusts to the demands of F1, he explained. Most importantly, he's okay because the crash was 45G, so that's important. Second priority is to get the car ready for George Russell, so the program doesn't suffer too much, which hopefully is going to be okay. We may run a little bit late, but it's going to be okay. And the third one, it's unfortunate because I guess having had an hour to run, we would have seen some good performances. But that's what we always said. He's a rookie. He's very young. We are prepared to invest into his future, and these moments will happen. They will continue to happen next year, but there will also be a lot of highlights. What we've seen today was that we'd rather have a problem in slowing him down than making him faster, because what we've seen from 1.5 laps is just mind-blowing. Astonishing. He apologized when he returned to the garage. First of all, and I think this is what you need to do when you bring a car back that looks a little bit like a Lego box falling on the floor. But he also said that he felt so much confidence in the car. The car was good, and I guess he was just bitten. Everybody suffered from lots of temperature, and especially rear temperature out of Ascari, with these kinds of speeds, and that's why the rear went away and stepped out. Williams boss James Vowles insists that Franco Colapinto's team offered no financial incentives for an F1 seat, but did reveal new information in that other sources did put finances on the table for the seat. The Dutch Grand Prix proved to be Logan Sargent's 36th and final start with Williams, the American racer suffering a further and final heavy crash during the third practice session, with Williams having introduced an upgraded FW46 at Zandvoort. As speculation strengthened that Sargent was facing the mid-season axe, the likes of Red Bull reserve Liam Lawson and Mercedes reserve Mick Schumacher began to emerge as options, but Williams would look to their academy and promote Formula 2 star Colapinto into a race seat for the final 9 rounds of F1 2024. Following the announcement, speculation emerged that Colapinto, through sponsor backing, was paying Williams $500,000 per race for the opportunity, though Vowles has stressed this is not the case. However, while Colapinto brought no financial backing with him at the point of getting the seat, Vowles said a flood of sponsors from Colapinto's native Argentina have since been in touch to get their branding on the FW46. What I'll make very clear to everyone here is no sponsorship was linked to signing him, Vowles told media, including PlanetF1.com. Actually, we signed him at the point of not knowing anything in future. What then transpired, and it hasn't finished yet, the phone is still ringing off the hook, is a number of Argentine companies, of which there are many, are calling, and they're paying market rate for stickers on the car fundamentally. So it's nothing related to Franco. They want to be part of the journey and part of the journey beyond 2024, just to be clear as well, or I hope many will. We'll see where we end up. But you'll see stickers appearing on the car around Baku time. I'm not sure how many at the moment, because genuinely, we are getting huge amounts of interest from Argentina. But at the point of choosing Franco, there was no finance involved in that. And to be really blunt on it as well, there was finance being offered on the table from other sources. That's not of interest. This is about investing in our academy and in our future. Williams' F1 2025 driver lineup is already set with Carlos Sainz to arrive from Ferrari to partner Alex Albon. Lando Norris fears he is quite a long way off the pace ahead of the Italian Grand Prix after a big mistake by Oscar Piastri masked the true difference between the McLaren drivers at Monza. Norris is going in search of consecutive victories for the first time in his F1 career in Italy, having dominated from pole position at last weekend's Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. The British driver enjoyed a productive first day of running at Monza, with Norris classified third in the opening practice session before taking second, just 0.003 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes in the afternoon session. Norris claimed Piastri was on course to obliterate his time before a big mistake on his qualifying simulation saw the Australian manage only fourth, 0.120 seconds off Hamilton's overall benchmark. Norris is wary of his teammates' very quick pace at Monza, admitting he would have been quite a long way off had Piastri posted a truly representative lap. He said, "I struggled a little bit today, probably more with the car in FP1. Just low grip, I think everyone's going to say a similar thing. But the track improved a lot for FP2, and I probably just didn't progress as much as I needed to. The car was quick. Oscar was very quick. He made a big mistake. He probably lost 4 or 5 tenths, so he easily should have been P1, and therefore I'm quite a long way off, so a bit of work for me to do. Norris claimed the biggest margin of victory so far in F1 2024 in the Netherlands, finishing 22.8 seconds ahead of reigning 3-time world champion Max Verstappen's Red Bull. The 24-year-old is braced for a tighter battle this weekend, with up to 4 teams in contention for the win. He added, "It's FP2 and I think we turn up the engine and others don't. So it's close, I think, between Ferrari, US, Red Bull, I'm sure, after FP1, and Mercedes are very quick as well. So it's 8 cars all looking fast and it should make it exciting tomorrow." McLaren's last victory at Monza came in 2021, when Daniel Ricciardo collected the team's first win since the 2012 season. Norris finished second on that occasion in what remains his only Italian Grand Prix podium finish to date. James Vowles' matter-of-fact verdict on Mick Schumacher's skills drew Toto Wolff's attention over the Italian GP weekend. Williams opted for an internal promotion to replace Logan Sargent, with Franco Colapinto being given the nod to take over the American's seat for the remainder of the F1 2024 season, with Liam Lawson and Mick Schumacher having been the leading candidates to replace Sargent as Williams went looking for options following Sargent's Zandvoort crash. Colapinto's appointment was a bolt from the blue, given the knowledge and experience Lawson and Schumacher already have. With Lawson impressing as a substitute for AlphaTauri this year, Schumacher was signed as Mercedes reserve driver last year, following the end of his tenure as a race driver for the Haas squad, before then-team boss Guenther Steiner opted against continuing with the German. Explaining why Williams had opted against signing either Lawson or Schumacher, team boss James Vowles revealed Lawson's contractual situation with Red Bull worked against him, while Schumacher's skills came in for highlighting. "Mick has improved a lot from where he was in Haas. There was no doubt about it. He's a competent driver that I know he had his time," Vowles offered. "But he has done incredible work with Alpine, with Mercedes, and with McLaren in the meantime. And all advocates, if you speak to them, will tell you where he's adapted and where he's changed. So it becomes a decision. Do we invest in the future, or do we invest in someone else as a result of it? I think both would fall into the category of not special. I think we have to be straightforward about this. Mick isn't special, he would have just been good." Such bluntness is rare in F1, with Vowles' comments put to Mercedes' team boss Toto Wolff about his reserve driver. Vowles and Wolff are close friends, following Vowles' long tenure as head of strategy for Mercedes before his Williams switch. But how were Vowles' comments viewed by Schumacher's current employer? "I know James such a long time, and he's a bright mind, and he finds his feet in the team principal's role," Wolff told media, including PlanetF1.com at Monza. "I think he will have chosen his words. It is just. Mick is someone who has won pretty much everything. F4, F2, F2, and he's, I guess, been crushed in the Haas environment at that stage, and we have not seen it. But every team needs to take its own decisions for the best interest of the team, and then also to decide how it wants to talk about drivers in the media. Everybody needs to do this in a way that they think is good." The decision to not run Schumacher was met with disbelief by his uncle, former F1 race winner turned broadcaster Ralf Schumacher. "You can perhaps respect this decision because Colapinto is a driver from Williams' junior program," the German said. "But, from a performance point of view, I think it's absurd and doesn't make sense," Ralf is quoted by Sky Deutschland as having told the German press agency. "I think the risk for the racing team and the driver is much, much higher than if they had brought in someone with experience like Mick. Given how the young Schumacher has struggled to find a way back onto the F1 grid, given his ties to both Mercedes and Alpine even before the Williams possibility, his uncle believes the former Haas driver is paying the price for his struggles to compare favorably alongside Kevin Magnussen. You have to be fair enough to admit that it simply took Mick too long in his second season at Haas to find his feet and get to grips with his teammate," Schumacher said. Formula One is not forgiving. Oscar Piastri believes he is gaining momentum and has overcome areas he struggled with last season, highlighting his improvement in F1. The McLaren driver sits fourth in the Drivers' Championship and became a race winner in Hungary, where he overtook Lando Norris into the first corner in a pivotal move. Piastri has been able to match Norris for most of the season, with the exception of an early-year blip where he endured some difficulties. Since overcoming the difficulties he faced, in particular in the Spanish Grand Prix, Piastri has been a podium contender in every race. Not everything has gone his way this season. He had a strong Q3 lap in Austria deleted for track limits, but he has learnt to clean up his driving and avoid making errors in recent rounds. I think definitely the last few races have been very strong from my side, Piastri told media, including Racing News 365. I think the whole season's been pretty good. A couple of weekends in the middle of the year were a bit tricky. Japan and China mainly were pretty tough, and obviously Barcelona, but I feel like all the other races have been quite strong. Just we've had a lot of things that haven't been going our way in some ways. Whether it's interesting track limit penalties or crashes or mistakes, there's always been just things, and I feel like the last few races I have been able to tidy it up. In his rookie season, qualifying performance was not a concern for the Australian driver. Piastri was immediately quick in F1, however, he often faded during races. This was down to his tire management, as Piastri often used the best of his tires before his opponents. Tire preservation is an area which has clearly been addressed, as proven in the Belgian Grand Prix where his pace improved in the latter stages whilst managing his tire wear. He recognizes himself that he has taken a step forward, with Piastri noting that the Belgian GP would have been difficult for him 12 months ago. I feel like I've taken a step forward from last year, definitely. And I think in these tricky kind of races like Belgium, last year I was struggling in a race like this. So I feel like I've made good progress, and obviously the car is very quick as well. I feel like I'm gaining some nice momentum, which is good, but I know how quickly it can turn around and go the other way as well. I just keep trying to build on it, but I feel like I'm in a strong place. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.